It's time for Kit Kat 1, 2, 3. Kit Kat 1, 2, 3. Kit Kat 1, 2, 3. Yay!
SpongeBob SquarePants, he's unique. His head clean spills. SpongeBob SquarePants, big sneak peek. Right after Kids' Choice. His show's a real hoot. He lives in a fruit. SpongeBob SquarePants, big sneak peek. Right after Kids' Choice. Don't miss Nick's newest Nicktoon. It's a never-before-seen sneak peek of SpongeBob SquarePants. Right after the Kids' Choice Awards. Next, on the best place to turn for new tunes, Nickelodeon.
Prepare to be vanquished.
Hello, everybody! Welcome back to the Nickelodeon and the longest review that I'm going to do in this series, I'm sure of it. This show is one of the main reasons that I did the entire thing in the first place. I love watching this show, and I can't wait to be able to share my love with you. It's SpongeBob time, baby! SpongeBob SquarePants is the 13th Nicktoon I'll be reviewing for this series, and the most successful by a wide margin. It was created by former marine biologist and Rocko's Modern Life writer Steven Hillenburg. The origins of SpongeBob came from a comic book that he made while working as a marine biologist titled The Intertidal Zone. It premiered on May 1st, 1999 after the Kids' Choice Awards and has been running ever since. Its 27th anniversary is this year, and I think when I put this up, it'll be next week. It currently has 330 episodes at the time I'm writing this. 16 seasons with a 17th on the way, 4 theatrical movies, 2 straight-to-Netflix movies, and a Tony Award-winning musical, in addition to multiple shorts, a VH1 documentary, theme park rides, books, and comics as supplemental material. It is the longest-running animated children's show on television, beating Arthur's record in 2022. It has won 6 Annie Awards, been nominated for 9 Primetime Emmy Awards, won 5 Daytime Emmy Awards, and won 23 Kids' Choice Awards, making it one of Nickelodeon's most acclaimed series, only being eclipsed by Nick News. If you didn't know what SpongeBob's about, I guess you're about to find out. I don't know how you don't. SpongeBob follows the quirky townspeople of an island under the Bikini Atoll in Hawaii called Bikini Bottom. Under the ocean, we find a fry cook named SpongeBob SquarePants, who lives in his pineapple house with his pet snail, Gary. He loves his job at the Krusty Krab, jellyfishing at Jellyfish Field, reading comics, and spending time with his best friends. They include Patrick Star, a lazy, possibly stupid starfish who lives under a rock and loves to eat Krabby Patties at 3 a.m. His friends also include Sandy Cheeks, a land squirrel living under the water to conduct research, and also loves karate and her home state of Texas. He thinks he's the friend of his grumpy neighbor, Squidward Tentacles, a fun-hating loner who likes to lounge around his Easter Island head home, playing his clarinet and painting self-portraits. The cast also includes SpongeBob's money-loving and former pirate boss, Mr. Krabs, who owns the most addictive eating establishment under the sea, the Krusty Krab, his business rival and megalomaniac Plankton, Plankton's smart and computer wife, Karen, SpongeBob's driving instructor and former convicted felon, Mrs. Puff, and Mr. Krabs' cheerleading teenage daughter, Pearl. My favorite show of all time is SpongeBob SquarePants. I've loved it for over 18 years at this point. I'll keep watching it until either it ends or I die. The curtains in my room are SpongeBob themed, and they have been for the last 17 years. The first episodes I ever watched live were the episodes in the Ultimate SpongeBob Sponge Bash Marathon back in 2009 at a McDonald's Play Place, and I'll treasure that memory until I die. SpongeBob is my ultimate ride or die, and he always will be. Now that all my personal history is out of the way, I'm going to do something a little crazy here and split the review into 5 parts. Those being seasons 1 to 3, seasons 4 to 5, seasons 6 to 9A, seasons 9B to 12, and season 13 to present, or what I call the Golden Age or Spongy Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, the Renaissance, and the Post-Renaissance. There's a lot of show to talk about here, being 330 episodes, and I want to do it as concisely as possible so I can talk about the whole show, not just the parts that I like personally. So let's start off with seasons 1 to 3, and I'll put a little transition here right now. Seasons 1 to 3 of SpongeBob are probably the funniest of any Nicktoon I've covered. up to this point, but honestly also in general. That's not really a shock. Any cartoon slop YouTuber can tell you that, but it's really true. While rewatching, I noticed a bunch of funny gags that were packed on top of funny gags that I never really paid attention to until, I saw them. These episodes have been memed to absolute death, but despite that, I still love watching almost every minute. The characters are very strong right off the bat. SpongeBob is optimistic and determined, Patrick is slow and lazy, Squidward is mean and pretentious. All the character beats are there from the very first episode, and that's why it's one of the best. Take this example, SB129. Now this episode, the Angry Beavers episode, Brothers to the End, and the Cat Dog episode, Cat Dog 3000, all aired on the same day, December 31st, 1999, or the New Year's Eve before the new millennium, and shows the contrast between all these shows and proves why SpongeBob has the staying power it does. Cat Dog 3000 plays out like a generic characters in the future episode, with the main characters being rebels against a main dictator, done better in the Jimmy Neutron episode, The Tomorrow Boys, but that's besides the point, and ends with them defeating the dictator and getting blasted back into the past. It's an okay episode. The Angry Beavers episode is about them getting drunk on New Year's Eve and getting blasted to a neutral zone where the brothers try to kill each other with new armies and cosmic entity throws them back into the present. Weird, yes. Wacky, yes. Not really funny. SB129, however, hits the same notes as both of these episodes. Characters go to the future and the past, and wacky things happen, and there's a neutral zone. But in much better, more memorable ways, and is weirder and wackier than both combined while still being grounded. SpongeBob genuinely was a step above the rest in only its first season, and that reason alone proves why it's still on today. I also love all the Hawaiian-inspired background music that the first season especially infuses into the episodes. Tracks like Warblowers and Hawaii Bob give the episodes a very distinct feel to other cartoons at the time, amongst all the stock music that the later seasons would include. The songs in SpongeBob are pretty much always on point as well, throughout, all of the runs, besides maybe 7 through 9, but it's whatever. My favorite songs of the series would be Goofy Goober Rock from the first movie, the Campfire Song from the camping episode, Sweet Victory from Band Geeks, even though that wasn't technically made by the SpongeBob crew, or whatever, and Where's Gary, which was a deleted song from Have You Seen the Snail in the 4th season that eventually made it into the credits. Tom Kenny is also genuinely a really great singer, and that elevates most of the songs SpongeBob performs during the series to great. My favorite SpongeBob season, personally, is Season 3, but honestly, most of the episodes in the season are classics. My favorite episode from Seasons 1 through 3 each would be Pizza Delivery, Pre-Hibernation Week, and Ugh. Pizza Delivery is a classic SpongeBob Squidward plot, with them trying to deliver a pizza on foot through insurmountable challenges, and eventually succeeding through optimism and violence. It's also genuinely heartwarming, with Squidward coming to SpongeBob's defense against an asshole customer who makes SpongeBob cry. The Krusty Krab pizza song is also a classic, but I enjoy SpongeBob's hitchhiking dance in traffic more. Pre-Hibernation Week is my favorite episode of the series. From the humor to the terror SpongeBob goes through at the hands of Sandy, to the sweet ending, to the metal soundtrack provided by Pantera, is truly a 10 out of 10, and I think a pretty underrated episode amongst the many acclaimed episodes of Season 2. My best of Season 3 is also pretty out there. My favorite episode is Ugh, where we follow SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward's prehistoric relatives. I just really enjoy the humor of it. It's been my favorite episode of the season since I was 3 years old, and it always makes me laugh. Especially the patchy segments with him and Potty fighting over whether the past or the future is better. Whenever things are going well for me, I like to steal Patchy's line, "Strike one up for Patchy," when he's still failing miserably. Some of my other favorite episodes of this era would be I Was a Teenage Gary for being scary but funny, Band Geeks for the usual reasons people like it, Chocolate with Nuts for being incredibly funny and also making me hungry, No Weenies Allowed for Patrick's curb stomp of himself, and Jellyfish Jam for having great music. My least favorite episode of these seasons would be As Seen on TV from Season 3, where SpongeBob is featured Mike Wazowski style in a Krusty Krab commercial and convinces himself he's famous. I just don't think this one is really funny after the old man recognizes SpongeBob as the bran flakes box he saw on TV. And SpongeBob being conceited and making people starve just isn't really funny to me, just annoying. I do like the making of the commercial. The commercial featuring Squidward acting as a teen girl just by putting a wig on him, and SpongeBob's striped sweater song, but it's just not as funny compared to the rest of the episodes in this era, especially next to its sister episode and another one of my favorites, Can You Spare a Dime? After season 3, the first SpongeBob movie premiered in theaters, and with it, a mass exodus of writers and storyboard artists began, including series creator Steven Hillenburg. What do I think of seasons 4 to 5?
Nick Extra! Pickled Plankton. We'll be right back.
Nick! Excuse me, I can't reach my silverware!
Now, back to the show.
Personally, I don't think these two seasons are much different from the past 3 in terms of quality at all. Yes, some episodes are more middling, like Squidward or Breath of Fresh Squidward, but the good ones like Roller Cowards, Fear of Krabby Patty, and Slimy Dancing are just classic SpongeBob, even though people online still like to shit all over these seasons in the name of avenging Hillenburg or whatever. I think season 5's gimmick of some episodes having 3 segments instead of 2 is kinda weird. It also gives us some of the best episodes of the season despite them being shorter, like SpongeBob versus the Patty Gadget, the Donut of Shame, and the Krusty Plate. Overall, there are more mediocre and bad episodes in comparison to seasons 1 through 3, but besides a couple stinkers in season 5, the quality is still pretty consistent, especially in season 4, and the animation is still pretty neat and fluid. We'll get to the animation downgrade in a little bit. I don't know why these seasons get such a bad rap, probably because the kids who watched the first 3 seasons grew up in between the hiatus and stopped finding it funny, and wanted to blame the new staff for everything they didn't like. I, however, was born the same year season 4 premiered and grew up alongside it. Honestly, I think season 4's animation style, especially in Fear of a Krabby Patty, was the peak of the show until season 10 as well. Besides season 1, which is my absolute favorite animation style. I love the cell animated style of season 1, but unfortunately it couldn't last. So, season 4, early episodes, season 10, best style. There are some flaws with seasons 4 and 5, however. The gross up really ramped up in this series in season 5, with the worst episodes of the season, Fungus Among Us and To Love a Patty. Apparently fine, gross equals funny, and that's it. I don't think gross equals funny, and therefore they're really shit to watch nowadays. There was some precedent with the gross out humor in Nasty Patty in season 3, or like Something Smells even in season 2, but most of the comedy from Nasty Patty was darker because SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs thought they killed the health inspector. If Nasty Patty was made in season 5, or God forbid season 7, the health inspector really would have eaten that patty, and the whole episode would have just been about him eating the damn patty. I don't enjoy basically any of SpongeBob's gross out episodes, and the trend started here, so I have to call it out. I also wish the female characters were used more throughout the seasons. Sandy only gets episodes like Chimps Ahoy and Flea in Her Dome focused on her. Earl only gets Whale of a Birthday. Mrs. Puff gets Mrs. Puff You're Fired and Driven to Tears. And Karen basically doesn't get anything until season 6, unless you count Enemy-in-Law, where Plankton cheats on her with Mr. Krabs' mom. I wish they'd have more focus in the show in general, but they will eventually try and remedy this in season 13 present, so I'll save my thoughts on the Gal Pal episodes until then. My favorite episodes of 4 and 5 would be Krusty Towers and Sing a Song of Patrick, respectively. Krusty Towers is full of funny little gags, and I love the hotel setting. It feels very cozy to me, at least. I also love the gag of SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs appearing to kidnap Squidward's mom, only for her to show up and help them shut the trunk on her laundry. A really funny episode and one of the most iconic of the show, at least a little 4-year-old me. Sing a Song of Patrick is also really goofy and full of non-stop gags. My favorite part of the episode is definitely when Patrick's song reaches the studio and kills the band that records it. It was also pretty cute to see little Patrick in gym class, even though he gets pelted with dodgeballs. His song itself is also really catchy. I agree with Old Man Walker. I rather like it. The worst episode of these seasons would definitely be Fungus Among Us, like I said before. It's just gross. It's not funny. Even though Gary is featured prominently in it and I love Gary, it's still just gross to watch and I don't enjoy it at all. Just nasty. At least To Love a Patty had some scenes that weren't like entirely focused on gross out. Even if, it's about SpongeBob, killing clams, whatever. At least something else there. But there's just gross and Fungus Among Us and there's no point watching it, yeah. Now, to transition into the next stage of SpongeBob, Season 5 ended with the 100th episode of SpongeBob, so Season 6 starting episode would break Hey Arnold's record of being the second longest running Nicktoon. How do I feel about that long streak-breaking episode, along with the rest of Season 6 through 9A? Let's find out. Despite being the punching bag of cartoon YouTube for almost 2 decades now, I've never really minded Season 6 through 9A. Season 6 in particular is still pretty solid, with episodes like Krabby Road, Suction Cup Symphony, Overbooked, and one of my underrated favorites, Gone, being on par with the rest of my favorite episodes, even from the sacred 1 through 3. Season 7 is when the quality kind of nosedives for me though. The animation quality got progressively cut down in Season 6 and looks the absolute worst in Season 7. Everything's so stiff and I hate SpongeBob's stupid squish face and Patrick's one-tooth grin in this season. The episodes in Season 7 also got progressively more cruel, reaching the absolute nadir with a pal for Gary, but also becomes more present in episodes like Yours, Mine, and Mine, Stuck in the Ringer, and Season 8 Smooth Jazz at Bikini Bottom. The good episodes are also not really on par with the rest of the series, with my favorite of the entire season being The Bad Guys Club for Villains, which is an 8-minute short featuring the IJLSA superheroes and basically none of the actual main characters. The art style itself is also kinda cringy in Season 6 through 8, with a lot more overemphasized veins and really detailed organs and shit. Another character design choice I didn't really like was the weirdly sexualized fish women in episodes like Dear Vikings or The Clash of Triton. They don't really look like fish women, they just look like women with weird skin conditions and are not appealing to look at. May I dare to suggest that they're misogynistic caricatures? The absolute worst episode of the whole series, all 16 seasons, is A Pal for Gary. SpongeBob decides Gary is alone at home while he's at work and decides to buy a friend for him that turns out to be extremely aggressive and tries to kill both Gary and SpongeBob. This episode is incredibly unfunny, cringeworthy, and weirdly violent for SpongeBob. SpongeBob definitely have dark episodes like I Was a Teenage Gary or Nasty Patty, or even something like Gone, but most of the time there's humor to balance it out. Well, this episode has nothing to balance out the frightening scenes of Puffy Fluffy, the pet SpongeBob bot, trying to murder Gary. I'm guessing SpongeBob being stupid and thinking Gary is being mean to Puffy Fluffy are supposed to be funny, but instead SpongeBob just comes off as a brain-dead moron, and that's not fun to watch. I've only watched this episode a whopping 3 times in my life. I've seen every other episode from seasons 1 to 12 at least like 5 times, maybe even 10. And I'd say it gets worse on every watch, but I first watched this episode when it premiered back in 2010 and it made me cry, so no. I was 4 years old watching this when it aired, and I was screaming and wailing, and it was a terrible time. It's just always been shit. I genuinely don't understand why they made this episode. It's not funny, it's weirdly scary for SpongeBob, there's no clear morals, it's just shit. The only idea that I can think of is that they made it as a piss take of pit bull owners, maybe. Like someone has a cat, they assume it's lonely, they buy a pit bull or any type of aggressive dog, and the dog eats it. That could be what they're going for. But if the episode is genuinely supposed to be a piss take, I don't get why it's a SpongeBob episode. Just write a blog post or some shit, man. Don't traumatize kids for no reason. Season 8 is probably the most forgettable season of SpongeBob, with most of the lows not being that low, but also most of the highs not being that high. It's a very middle-of-the-road season, especially compared to Season 7, and the great portion of Season 9B. The highest high would definitely be It's a SpongeBob Christmas, the first of 3 stop-motion animated specials, and a great comparison to the first Christmas episode all the way back in Season 2, Christmas Who. The lowest low would definitely be Smooth Jazz at Bikini Bottom, like I talked about before, which apparently thinks that Patrick being stupid and eating garbage is the most hilarious joke in the history of comedy. It's not. I did like the little road trip miniseries episodes a lot more than the Legends of Bikini Bottom miniseries from season 7. But the Christmas episode, the miniseries, and the episode Hello Bikini Bottom are the only big standouts. During the season, SpongeBob also surpassed Rugrats' episode count of 172, leading to it becoming the longest-running Nicktoon of all time. Yippee! Season 9A is basically just a continuation of Season 8's boring parts, while being slightly better. Unfortunately, it's bogged down by one of the worst in the series, Squid Baby, which is shit for reasons you can tell by the title. It also has some fun moments like Plankton's Pet and Extreme Spots. However, this season was split in half for a very good reason. After about 11 episodes were produced for it, the production moved to work on the second SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water, bringing back original creator Steven Hillenburg while doing so. Yay, the original creator's back working on the series. Will the quality wildly increase now? Since I'm saying it, of course it will.
You've been busy bringing the color. Glorious! Now we're showing off your work in a week of colorful new SpongeBobs.
You'll have to keep your skull numb.
Now we're numbskulls. It all leads up to a mysterious new episode where the colors go missing.
I know you stole my clarinet.
I have an alibi. I was at Grandma's house all day, and I have the kissy marks to prove it. See?
Don't miss a week of colorful new SpongeBobs this November on Nick.
I'm ready!
Seasons 9B to 11 are some of my favorite seasons in the series. Season 10 in particular is great. These seasons feel much more experimental and interesting than the past couple. Writers from the past like Kaz and new blood like Jack Pendarvis and Claire O'Kane really acted like a breath of fresh air in a series that really needed it after the lackluster but still okay past couple of seasons. Episodes such as My Leg, Bulletin Board, Larry's Gym, and Mall Girl Pearl focused on side characters that desperately needed some attention after years and years of being ignored, and were really interesting and fun to watch. Goodbye, Krabby Patty from Season 9 is also one of the best specials of the show, and it was made as the 200th episode celebration. Karen's Virus from Season 11 explores CGI environments inside Karen during it. Chef Bob has SpongeBob's hand puppet becoming an insult comic, and Whale Watching features a nice Squidward-Pearl relationship, something that was never explored in the 19 years since the show started airing. Season 10 is the absolute strongest season for me in this bunch, with none of the episodes being bad and all of them having an experimental atmosphere that's very fun to watch. Especially in my favorite out of the group, Mimic Madness, which eventually won Tom Kenny an Emmy for his great performance in it, so good for him. Season 12 is a bit lesser to me than the previous 3 seasons. While Season 9B had a bunch of new freelance writers, and Season 10 introduced some new permanent writers like Ben Gruber, this season kind of felt like stagnant almost, like they weren't as experimental as they used to be, they're just kind of blah. Especially for the first half of the season. The third TV special, SpongeBob's Big Birthday Blowout, is definitely the standout of the season, with fitting tributes to both the series and Steven Hillenburg being featured in it. But the season really started heating up by the end, with episodes like Kooky Cooks and A Cabin in the Kelp being really funny and interesting explorations of the characters, Pearl especially in both, and a pretty good Disney spoof with Escape from Beneath Glove World. Overall, Season 12 just kind of feels like a step down compared to the wildly amazing Seasons 9B through 11, even though the episodes as a whole are still pretty good. Unfortunately, during the airing of this season, series creator Steven Hillenburg would pass away from complications due to ALS. The series continued on without him as a tribute, leading to...
What should we do first, SpongeBob?
Everything?
It's SpongeBob's Summer of Fun.
What's that?
Let me spell it for you.
F is for Friday night premiere.
Looks like you've been foiled again.
U is for an unbelievable hour-long special.
Who are you, beautiful stranger?
And N is for anything SpongeBob. SpongeBob Summer of Fun. New episodes every Friday at 7. There's so much SpongeBob on Nickelodeon and Paramount+.
Season 13, I think, started another dip in quality for SpongeBob. The first couple episodes of the season, besides the opener and Goofy Scoopers, are pretty bland and uninteresting, ending with one of my least favorite post-threequel episodes, Chums, which is just another episode full of stupid gross-out humor. There are some blatant copies from other cartoon episodes and other SpongeBob episodes themselves in here. Plain to see, for Rocco's Modern Life's Jet Scream stands out the most, and My Friend Patty's Just Money Talks and To Love a Patty from Season 5 combined, and random fairy tale and storybook-inspired episodes that I find are the bottom of the barrel for creativity, besides Tales from a Goose Lady and Oh Yeah cartoons, because I actually did something different with them instead of just doing the story with characters from the show. It's just boring. We don't need a SpongeBob version of Moby Dick. The highs of season 13 are still pretty high compared to a season like 8, for example, but the lows are really boring and uninteresting. This season started the year of my freshman year of college, and for once I felt like all the rude SpongeBob reviewers I watched as a kid, bored and confused by the show I love so much. There is still some neat experimental episodes here. Welcome to Binary Bottom, Say Aw, and my favorite of the season, Salty Sponge. But the lows like Dopey Dick, the Moby Dick episode as talked about, and entirely boring The Goob Father bring this season down in my rankings. Seasons 14 to 16 are way shorter than any season beyond season 10, which only had 11, where these ones have 13, because the Paramount decided to cut the episodes in production in half to appease their stockholders for Paramount Plus. All these seasons are only 13 episodes in length from this point on, when they originally either had 20 or 26 depending on the season. So 20 from seasons 1 to 5, 26 from 6 to 13, basically, besides 10. But I already talked about that. I do think that the change in season length has helped a bit with the creativity of the writers and creators behind the episodes. Season 14 was pretty silly and had some more showcase episodes for characters that haven't gotten a ton of focus, like the characters' moms and Momageddon, or SpongeBob's grandma for the first time in 13 or so years and Don't Make Me Laugh, and most of the Camp Coral kids getting screen time in Creepaway Camp, probably the second best of the TV specials made for SpongeBob. However, it's still bogged down by random fairy tale episodes, gross out, and a weird abundance of Bubble Bass. Originally starting off as a one-off antagonist in the first season, the writers really brought Bubble Bass back with a vengeance in season 11, when he was used sparingly in seasons 8 to 10 before. Now, almost every episode features Bubble Bass in it, no longer a picky foodie, but a gross, never-showering comic book fan stereotype who lives in his mom's basement because, of course, he does. I don't understand why the writers decided to use Bubble Bass so heavily in season 14 specifically, with him having 2 different episodes to himself, Bassword and the Dirty Bubble Bass, in a season with only 13 episodes and none starring characters like Mrs. Puff or Larry the Lobster, who are both more tolerable than Bubble Bass, and also have more potential for jokes than he does. I also don't really like the 300th episode anniversary specials for this season. Blood is Thicker Than Grease is just an excuse for lazy hillbilly jokes about Plankton's family. Squidiot Box is just a retread of Idiot Box with no real reason to exist outside of nostalgia pandering. And In the Mood to Feud is a series of even lazier hillbilly jokes, this time featuring both Plankton's family and new characters Narlene and Nobby from Camp Coral. You'll hear more about them in the Camp Coral review eventually. The only really great 300th episode special was PL 1413, even though that's also a retread of SB 129, because at least there was a new character in there with some potential for new good jokes. I understood that it was an anniversary special, not just nostalgia bait. The absolute best episode out of seasons 13 to 16 definitely comes from 14, though, with the magnificent Tango Tangle, starring Plankton and Karen going on a tango misadventure for a date. However, even that one features Bubble Bass and his equally annoying mom for no real reason, even though they are more tolerable in that one than most other episodes. But I definitely recommend that one. If you have to watch any episode from seasons 13 to 16, go with Tango Tangle. It is really funny. Seasons 15 to 16, I think, are more of a return to form for SpongeBob. There aren't as many gross-out episodes in the seasons, which I enjoy, besides the taste of Plankton in season 15. Recurring characters get more spotlight, like in season 9B, like Pearl in season 16's Pigskin Pearl when she joins the football team at her school, and Moon, which brings Kevin the Sea Cucumber back. There's also some really interesting and experimental episodes in this batch, with a fish called Sandy, which is animated like a digital version of a season 1 episode and has some really cute friendship moments, or shipping depending on who you are, with SpongeBob and Sandy. It's a full throwback to season 1 specifically, which I loved, and my favorite episode of season 16, Go Fetch, which is fully animated and beautiful CG animation that looks so fluid, it's amazing. The episodes are also funnier than those in 13 and 14. My favorites in particular are Bizarro Bottom, the season 16 opener, Jeffy T's Prank Will Emporium from 15, where we finally meet Squidward's dad, Firehouse Bob, also from 15, and Pardon My Wand from 16. I guess my biggest complaint for the newest seasons is that I wish there was more focus on the pre-established side characters like Larry, Mrs. Puff, Karen, and Pearl, instead of constantly using bubble baths for cheap laughs. I'd also like to see some new characters in general, besides Narlene and Nobby, like Slappy, to get more focus as well, to show some more depth to their characters. I like that the grossed out episodes have stopped happening at such a rate. I don't like them in SpongeBob at all, they just don't fit the vibe. Tom Kenny's voice has also been pretty rough to hear for the past couple of seasons. He doesn't really sound like SpongeBob anymore, which is understandable after 27 years of voicing the guy, but the Timeline Twist-Up special particularly, where they make him do the voices of both past and present SpongeBob, you can really tell the years have flown by, and it's kinda sad to hear. Overall, SpongeBob has been a roller coaster over the years, with tons of good episodes, tons of mediocre ones, and I won't say tons, but enough bad ones. All of the eras feel very distinct, and watching them all together gave me a sense of cohesion amongst them that I've never really felt before, not even when I watched them in full the first time. Seeing all the callbacks and references to older episodes when they aired kind of pissed me off because I already watched all the older episodes and didn't see the need to reference old ones. I watched them all in order. It was actually pretty fun seeing how Bikini Bottom's grown and become an absolute behemoth over the years, that we can have that many references and characters that can come back. Every single main cast member of SpongeBob has put in a great performance for the past 27 years, so instead of only naming a couple members of the main cast, I'll be shouting out all of them and their best performances over the years. Let's go. To start, I'll be shouting out Tom Kenny again for playing SpongeBob for almost 30 years now, counting the pilot, playing Gary, Patchy the Pirate, the French narrator, Hans, and tons of side characters. It really is both his and Steven Hillenburg's show. I hope that SpongeBob will keep running for as long as Tom Kenny wants to play him. His absolute best performance out of the show would be the episode Mimic Madness, where he not only performed SpongeBob's voice, but imitations of the entire rest of the cast and even of himself. He got an Emmy for this episode, and it was rightly deserved. For Bill Fagervaki, Tom Kenny once said in an interview that Bill is the best fake dumb guy he knows, and that's a very good description for his performance as Patrick. His best episode to me would probably be Valentine's Day back in season 1. Going through all of Patrick's emotions, including happiness, depression, extreme anger, and contentness, is a great showcase for his work at Patrick, and one of the best going crazy episodes from any of the cast due to his acting. Roger Bumpus is also one of the best actors on the show. Squidward's voice will forever be imitated by school kids around the world, and apparently he has one of the biggest SpongeBob collections in the world, which I find really funny for the obvious reason. His best performance as Squidward to me would be all the way back in season 1 with Pizza Delivery, with his moment at the end standing up for SpongeBob, showcasing Squidward's hidden depths way down deep inside him. Clancy Brown is definitely more understated as an actor on SpongeBob. He mostly only does the role of Mr. Krabs and a couple background characters, but his dynamics with the rest of the cast, particularly Tom Kenny as SpongeBob, Lori Allen as Pearl, and Mr. Lawrence as Plankton, makes the show so good as a character-focused cartoon. His performance in New Leaf, talking to Plankton over the phone as old friends instead of enemies, really showed off a softer side of the big cheapskate and was very nice. While Carolyn Lawrence's Texas accent as Sandy isn't particularly great and probably never will be, she's still a really great actress and really funny in the show. Her best performance would probably be Sandy going nuts at the end of Texas and her trying to murder SpongeBob and Patrick. She has a really great energy in that episode, and it's really fun to watch. Despite not being a professional voice actor by trade, Mr. or Doug Lawrence is probably my favorite performer of the main cast, purely just because of how loud he can get. His angry yell of, "Oh brother, this guy stinks," and squirrel jokes is probably my favorite line delivery out of the entire series, but his best performance as a whole would be as the crazy fish Tom, craving SpongeBob and Patrick's delicious chocolate and chocolate with nuts. I think Jill Talley is also underrated as an actor on SpongeBob. She was finally given more to do on the show in the past few seasons and Plankton the movie, and she's one of the best hidden gems in the SpongeBob voice cast. I think her best performance in the show, besides the movie, would be in Karen's Virus, where Karen gets a virus, obviously. Her drunken voice as Loopy Karen was very funny, and the episode as a whole is finally featured around her, so that's nice. Mary Jo Catlett is kind of an auxiliary actor in comparison to the ones we just talked about, but Mrs. Puff is still part of the main cast, and Catlett does a great job on the series, so I'll keep yapping until I have nothing left to say. Her best performance is definitely in No Free Rides, when she passes SpongeBob and lets him have a license, only to immediately regret it. The funny thing about watching all these shows in order is that you get to hear a lot of main voice actors for shows in minor roles in the ones you're watching, and Lori Allen is no exception. The last time I heard her at this point was as Rhonda's mom in Hey Arnold, which is kind of funny because she's the child and not the parent in this, despite the fact that both Hey Arnold and SpongeBob aired together a long time ago, but still. Anyway, she gives Pearl a very loud, boisterous voice, which fits nicely with her character design. Pearl unfortunately took a long time to have episodes dedicated to her in full, besides Whale of a Birthday, and most of her roles were either in episodes focusing on her and someone else, like SpongeBob and the Chaperone, or Squidward and Whale Watching, or simply in the background, like in Hooky or Squeaky Boots. Alan's best performance as Pearl actually comes in an episode that came out only last year, Pigskin Pearl, which focuses on Pearl becoming a football player. She finally gets a main role and has some good lines. Yay, it only took 26 years. He doesn't voice a real main character, but D. Bradley Baker has done a ton of background voices for SpongeBob, so I'll mention his best performance as well. Honestly, I think his best episode as a whole was in Procrastination, at SpongeBob's house that yells at him to write his essay. Maybe that's an out in left field pick, I don't know, but it's what came to mind when I was writing, so let's go with it. My favorite writer out of the whole series would have to be Meriwether Williams, who pioneered the way they would write out and storyboard the episodes by picking plots out of like a hat and basing an entire episode around it. She co-wrote classics like Band Geeks, Chocolate with Nuts, Karate Choppers, and Can You Spare a Dime, and was the only woman to write for SpongeBob for 16 years until Claire O'Kane wrote for the 9th season in 2016. The best directors would obviously be Alan Smart and Tom Yasumi, who before season 14 directed or co-directed pretty much every single episode, besides a few in the first 3 seasons. They worked for at least 25 years on SpongeBob and directed almost every single classic episode they ever made, so good for them. Overall, SpongeBob will always be my favorite show ever made. No matter the ups and downs, the challenges life throws at me, whatever I have going on, I can turn on one of my favorite episodes at any time and get a good laugh out of it and feel happy for a while. SpongeBob has maximum longevity, and I hope that it will continue to make people laugh and smile until the crew is finally ready to move on. And now for something with absolutely no longevity whatsoever. Tomorrow, Rocket Power, be there. I'm gonna roast the shit out of it, so you'll want to watch it. Alright, see ya then.